Greetings and welcome to In-Depth. I'm Dike Roster. We're saying long live Kaiso, and we are inside carnival season. So what better conversation to have than one with the assistant 10 manager of Kaiso House, also interim PRO for TUCO, Mr. Rondell Donawa. Now, tell me a little bit, thank you. It is about to start. It is upon us, the opening of Kaiso House. What is this theme? Or even before that, what are you feeling like to say we're on the cusp of it?
Listen, again, hi to your viewers, listeners. Kaiso House experience is going to be a great one. Of course, Kaiso House is where excellence is a tradition, and our theme this year is the Barakad. I'm sure people want to know what is the Barakad. And I could explain that the Barakad is really another manifestation of the space that birthed the ritual of Calypso. Of course, this is where theater meets Calypso, because, previously, historically, through the slave trade and going forward, they used music, they used acting to express themselves. And this is where the tradition of Calypso would have birthed. So it's really going back to the origin of ancestral magic, creating that space like the backyard, but instead using the term Barakad, because we're going hard at Kaiso House this year, where theater meets Calypso. So it's going to be a great production. It's actually a production that we are hosting this year.
And I want to talk about that aspect of production, but just before that, one of the things about a backyard is that people who were inside that space didn't necessarily have all the resources that they would have wanted to have as an individual, but together, the collective, there was this gestalt effect where the sum of its parts was, when it came together, the effect or the result was much more. Is that part of what is going into it as well?
Yes, actually the entire setting, it's a tent backyard type of setting. The set design is amazing. I don't want to really release as much, but when you get into the tent, because just saying that the tent is located at opposite Napa, Queens Park, Savannah, right? The big white tent traditionally. And when you enter that venue, you would feel as though you are in actually an outdoor setting that creates that magic, right, of a Calypso tent in the back of your yard, kind of vibe. You have the design of like, if it's a house you outside a house you're in. If you take your mind back to the pandemic, when Kes would have done his home production, that set with the little wooden house. That is not the same concept, but I'm just visualizing for your viewers and listeners what you're going to look at. And of course, kudos to our creative director. We have on board Miss Abio Jackson, known as Abby. She is our creative director, who would have put together in terms of the entire production, along with cast, along with actors, with musicians, etc. So it's a whole theater vibe production of Kaiso House.
Now you're talking that talk, and yes, I'm listening to it, but I also remembering what it is you're saying, that we need to go inside to go outside, in terms of like going inside the tent to have that outside feel. But where excellence is a tradition, it seems as though there is a little thrust to bring in a sense of nostalgia certain ways, to have people remember the things that we have already accomplished and thereby help us go forward into what it is we're going to do. Why the theme this year? Why the decision to have a theme like that this year?
Well, if I can give a bit of a history, of course, Calypso House tradition is where birthed a lot of Calypso monarchs, etc. Also, we have seen where even during the COVID pandemic, there has been quite a few of our stalwarts from the tent would have died. Firstly, our past president and head of the Kaiso House team, which was Utalo Masimba, Brother Resistance. Also, Singing Sandra would have passed, as well as Explainer in recent time. So basically, there's a new tent management headed by Roger Chuck Gordon, myself as assistant tent manager, along with Twiggy and Calypso. And we really wanted to bring a difference in terms of the mother of all carnivals. Of course, we have not had a carnival in the last 2 years. So it's really about giving persons a different concept of Calypso, or rather not getting into a Calypso show and spending or sitting down 4 hours listening to Calypso over and over. So it's really about changing that tradition, or changing that concept of Calypso being just something where you just sit down and it's just long and drawn out. So it's about getting our audiences interactive with the music, with the cast, with the actors, and also supporting acts that really brings that synergy across. So it was really about keeping the traditional Kaiso House, but changing the concept. And this year we are paying homage to our fallen icons who were past cast members of the tent. So it's called the House of the Greats, yeah, or the Hall of the Greats rather. So this is where Kaiso House will also display the Hall of the Greats. So you would see a display of all our past tent members and their who are icons, or who are still icons. Such as I said, Singing Sandra, Brother Resistance, Explainer, Shadow, Rootsman. So you would see actually figurative paintings of them in the barricade, as though they are real, as though they are here, right? Watching you. So to answer your question, that was really the genesis behind that whole concept of the barricade production this year.
And you say that, and I can just visualize it. I see my paws raising a little bit because just yes. Looking at these individuals, calling their names, referencing them while you're going into this space, I think we'll be able to feel their energy as they share it with us, because energy is something that can't be created or destroyed, but at the same time, it moves from one state to another, and I think from one person to another. So that also helps with that circular notion, the way that you'd have it in the Gael, the way you'd have it in the Horder, and so many other sacred spaces. But I like the fact, and I'll hark back to the watchwords in terms of where excellence is a tradition. And how significant is it that you have the individuals managing that tent, and it's not as though you just wash your foot and come, but you've been involved, you've been a part of this, so it's not hard to take up the reins, as it were, and move forward, because you kind of know what the energy is like, what the work has been like.
Yeah. I just want to say, I mean, before we get into that, I know we have not discussed the date, which is the opening date, which is tomorrow. Friday, right? Friday the 27th, which is at 8 p.m. That is at the Hall of the Greats, as I said, Queen's Park, Savannah. So that is Friday, right? So basically, it was not a hard transition. I mean, you have Chucky, or Chuck, as he's known now, because he's grown. He has been in the tent for the last 12 years. I have this year actually is my debut in Kaiso House. I would have come from the Kaiso Showcase tent, which is in South, for many years. And of course, being part of TUCO's General Council as well, I was given the task to assist Chuck with the management and with the overall view of really bringing in revenue, bringing in a stellar cast. And I must say that, we have had a lot of cooperation. I mean, we still have quite a good cast. We would have gone through the process of screening in terms of having an audition, a live audition, as well as persons who were past members of the tent submit their CDs for the review of the committee. Of course, the committee would have consisted of Carl Beaver Henderson, Bill Jackson, Ronnie McIntosh, Justice of Appeal, Gillian Lockie, Dr. Fitzpatrick. So it was persons of great stature and who understands the culture, who were given the task of screening these persons to come on board. And we have new individuals. We have a young cast along with the icons. The cast is now 23 members, and we are excited. I mean, I can call the names as well.
We'll ask you to call names in just a bit, but I remember a little earlier you said that it's not a matter of of going and sit down listening to Calypso for 4 hours, but 23 people, Mr. Donawa. And I'm
20,
thinking
well, it has been significantly reduced. I mean, before the cast size was like, I believe 34, in previous years. Yeah.
I try to imagine. I try to imagine what that would be like with
average.
encores.
Yes.
Like, wow.
Indeed. So you would have found that the time to the closing time would have been like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. Persons are now heading home. This year we really looking at a tight schedule. So therefore, show starts 8 p.m. prompt. It's a 2-hour long show, 2.5 max. But if you take into consideration, intermission. So by 11:30 max, the show actually by 11 actually, because that's 3 hours. Yes, by 11 max, that is when the show should end.
All right, so we take a short break and come back because there are other things that I want to talk about with you about the work of Kaiso House and just possibly Calypso in general. So stay with us. We return after this. Welcome back. We are going in depth on a conversation about Kaiso House, where excellence is a tradition. We're doing so with Assistant Tent Manager, Mr. Rondell Donawa. And the fact that the 27th of January, Friday, the 27th of January at 8 p.m., the only place that you want to be is at Kaiso House. Give us a little more information, though. Thank you. There's some names that I want you to call, and then we'll even talk about that aspect of finance. But give us some idea, give us a little idea who's going to be in the Barrack Hard, please.
Oh, sure. So we have the Monarchs, of course, we have Ashe, Chuck Gordon, we have Olatunji Ewood, who was former Groovy Monarch, and he has a great student this year, Engine Room, Dwayne O'Connor, Sneaky, who is the Independence Monarch. Then we have the Kaiso Warriors, Young Poser, myself, Rondell Donawa, Sister Ava, Wendell Goodrich, Lady Aisha, the Comedy Queen, Black Sage, the Extempore King. We have our veterans, Brother Valentino, Brother Mudada, Brown Boy, Bonnie B, Calypso, Marvelous Marva, Twiggy, Poser. And we have a young blood, Aaron Duncan, Taser, I hope I get it correctly, O'Connor, Nefta Kojo, Kevin Dodds. And it's backed by Kern Somerville and his sensational band, and of course backup vocals by our renowned Kaiso House jewels. So those are really the stellar 23 casts at the Hall of the Greats, Barrack Hard Kaiso House.
And it seems as though we have this, and I would refuse to call it a revolving wheel, but I like the fact that there are different aspects, different facets. The monarchs, the persons who have been in the genre for a while and are there knocking at the door. They're the younger individuals. So it seems that though all bases are covered, and that also helps with the way that Calypso can be shared, because it's not as though everyone is at one level, but you have different aspects, different persons, different people at different stages of their career. And how important is it to have that mix, that the olders that can mentor younger ones coming up, show them, well, this is what we used to do, it may work for you, as well as the younger ones showing, well, this is working for us now, or like this, so you might want to try that as well. How important is that mix?
I mean, the mix is very important. I mean, myself as a Calypsonian, well, coming from junior Calypso Monarch from the age of 4, growing up, and seeing these greats being so great in what they do, and now being an adult, actually on the other side where I am being a leader now, it is really important understanding that, of course, we have our veterans, we have our stalwarts, but it's important to honor, or at least to mentor rather, the younger generation who are coming up quickly, because of course, time's changing. Historically, you find that the young people necessarily don't take on Calypso music, but you find that they participate, meaning they sing. We have persons like Aaron Duncan, Taser O'Connor, Karina Ashe, all those persons, Devon Seal, Chuck, all those persons, Olatunji as well would have risen from the junior stage into senior, singing Calypso, still singing soca. So it is important that we understand that it is a hand-in-hand sort of relationship. and nobody coming to steal nobody what, that kind of way. Because at the end of the day, we need to show some sort of succession planning. Particularly in what we do as a nation and as an organization, understanding that at the end of the day, we have to pass on our knowledge and our craft, particularly to the younger generation, so that the art form doesn't seem as though it's dying or doesn't seem as though it's irrelevant. Because I still believe that Calypso is irrelevant because this is where our stories are told. And of course, our theme this year is Calypso Revolution, the rhythm and rhyme of our people. And obviously, what we are doing is revolutionizing our culture, revolutionizing our industry in Calypso. And I think this is where Kaiso House definitely will be leading the way in this regard.
And with that, I want to ask a question, then I give context and ask the question again. Do you think the role of Calypso has changed? I ask that because where some people would call Calypso the poor man's newspaper, I think there's no argument about the fact that Calypso is still alive, Calypso is still here with us. But has the role changed a little bit, looking at the fact that people get their information from slightly different places? Many people have their phones in their hand. What is the role of Calypso from where you sit?
The role of Calypso, I would say it has changed the fact that it is evolving, because Calypso comes with a story. Calypso is a story, right? And of course, we must adapt to what is current. I believe that in terms of the type of Calypsos that person produce, or the style of Calypso that person produce, whereas traditionally Calypso will be a 1-2 1-2 1-2. You've seen where you can include groovy type rhythm or song that tells a story. We've seen it done by Ola. We've seen it done by numerous artists. So in order to attract the younger generation, we need to include and infuse their type of culture or their type of music into Calypso. So it's definitely evolving. I believe the tradition in terms of what Calypso manifests, I believe that should always be solid, because the industry is a secret industry, meaning that yes, you have various you have social media, you have traditional media, you have different ways in which you can get information. But of course, Calypso is getting that information and being entertained, So this is where there's a difference. And of course, in terms of, just vibes in your culture, really. That's what it's all about, to be honest.
And once again, I want to go back to the addition of that theatrical aspect, and how that may be a model that possibly we're able to use outside of the season. Because sometimes it seems as though we want to lock ourselves in to seasons, as opposed to saying, okay, well, this is something that can have an application like this. This is something that can be used elsewhere like this. This is something that can be exported, this model. So how do we do that?
I don't believe Calypso or Carnival is seasonal anymore. I think that Carnival is evolving, or our culture is evolving in such a way that out of the season we see shows that are taking place, we see productions. And even during the pandemic stage, you will have seen there has been a wide range of virtual shows which have basically changed the landscape of how we do things. So I believe that obviously this is a litmus test in terms of Kaiso House, how we are doing the production this year. And this is definitely going to be packaged so that I believe, of course, I'm speaking before we make a decision. I believe this can really be produced in different areas of Trinidad and Tobago. Like, for instance, we can take this to the community. We can take this production to our concert halls, Napa, Sapa, Naprima Bowl, have shows throughout the years to the schools as well, do the same production in the schools. And this is where, the culture remains relevant. Because we've seen, long time it's just Calypso, it's just Carnival season, and then that's it. Now you're seeing that throughout the year, there are shows. Throughout the year, you TUCO zones, different zones of TUCO does shows. Of course, the 2 years sort of elapsed, so it's like it felt like if it's 10 years went by without anything happening. But definitely, I believe that that this is really the stage that is set for the production, or for various shows or continuity to take place post Ash Wednesday, I should say. I mean, bear in mind, we have Lent, but of course, I believe definitely for this 12 months, I believe it should be very, very interesting.
And I'm very happy to be able to hear this from you, looking at different potential applications and making sure that the thing has legs, as opposed to saying, okay, well, we'll put it there and then we'll dust it off and go back again with it. And even that aspect of mentorship, it's very heartening to see you involved in it, as opposed to just what you're saying here, because I'm going to make that plug in terms of seeing you doing what it is you were doing on 12 and Under, also airing on TTT. If you haven't seen it as yet, you can go and check it out on YouTube. But in this final minute that we have, Mr. Donawa, let me give you that last opportunity to just wrap up this information or the conversation with regard to Kaiso House, what is happening for 2023 as it starts on the 27th of January, Friday at 8 p.m.
Yes, it starts on the 27th of January, 8 p.m. at Kaiso House tent. Of course, we have a schedule that is a performance schedule that is being released. So we start on Friday, then Saturday 28th. Thereafter, I'm just trying to look for the schedule quickly. Right. So the 27th, 28th, then we resume on the 31st. That's Tuesday, straight to Saturday. Our judges' night is on the 4th of February, right? That is next week, 8 p.m. again. We have a clash as well with Kaiso Showcase time down in South Palms Club, San Fernando on the 5th. And then we're also looking at another clash as well with Kaiso House, Kaiso Review, and Kaiso Showcase. And when I say clash, I mean that all the tents come together and do a show, right? Of course, it won't be the full cast for each tent because obviously you want to keep it tight. So we have a big schedule. So the schedule is from the 27th of January to the 17th of February. Of course, tickets prices, sorry. I know I have a minute, but ticket prices, singles, 200. We have 2 for 1. 350. You can get your tickets at Canbule Restaurant in San Fernando, also at TUCO main head office, Birmingham Avenue. You can also get your tickets at the Kaiso House box office, which is Queens Park, Savannah, Versa Complex Barber Shop, which is Grand Bazaar, as well as Crosby Music Center, which is St. James. So those are the ticket outlets for Kaiso House. $200, 2 for 1, 350. Just come. You can even get your tickets out the door. Just come and enjoy that experience of Kaiso. See Kaiso music.
Definitely, where excellence is a tradition. We want to thank you so much, Assistant Tent Manager for Kaiso House, Rondell Donawa, and also Interim PRO for TUCO. And this has been In Depth with me, Dike Rostant. Thank you so much for joining us.